Kia ora koutou, I'm Jonathan Howe. I'm the Communications and Stakeholder Engagement Manager for Te Ahu Turanga, and I'll be taking you through the July 2024 flyover. So we start out at the western end, and as you can see there, that's the western roundabout. That's been cement stabilised, and they'll be starting work on the curb and channel very soon. So the whole stretch between the roundabout and Bridge 2, or Paki Bridge, is undergoing cement stabilisation at the moment. So as you can see, kind of to the right of the road, you'll start to see there is a row of trees being planted, and that's just some of the additional landscaping work that's been done in this latest season. Off to the left, we've got the compound area, which will be reconverted into the Gateway Park, which will be the new launching area for Te Apiti Manawatū Gorge. And then we come up to Paki Bridge. So as you can see from last time, the stitch pour between the southern abutment and the first pier has been done. So it's a great milestone. That means you can walk across that whole piece of bridge deck. And you can also start to see that we're getting ever so close to connecting the piece of the bridge that runs between Pier 1 and Pier 2. So that should be completed in the next couple of months. So yeah, lots of good work going on this massive structure across the Manawatū River. As we get across the river, we approach the Eco-viaduct bridge, and another great milestone there, we've now got all 760 panels in place, which means you can technically walk from one end of the bridge to the other. They have completed the final pier pour on Pier 3, so it just means they're now focusing on the remaining bridge deck pours, and then they'll move on to doing barriers. So underneath this bridge will also be quite a bit of remedial work to bring that wetland area back up to a high quality. As we start to get out onto Fill 9 here, you get a real sense of the slope. So what we have here on this side, on the Ashurst side, is a 10% gradient, so a 10% angle. To give you a bit of context to that, if you've driven the Transmission Gully Highway, you'll notice that that's between 8 and 9%, so it's slightly steeper at this side. But what we do have is a relatively short climb, and also it's a really steady climb. So, you know, especially for heavy vehicles, there won't be a requirement for them to change up and down in gears. They can just do one steady climb, and of course it is 2 lanes each way, so there'll be opportunity for cars to pass around those sort of slower moving vehicles. So that was all something that was sort of designed into the road to make it a better experience for the users. You start to see quite a few plants coming through on the left and right hand side slopes there. That's part of our landscaping plan. We've got upwards of around 140,000 plants in the ground so far this season. We have a bit of a revised total of around about 380 to be done this year, and anything remaining after that will be done in the next season. In those little drain areas you can see to the right of the screen, we will be putting a Turanga tree down there. So that Turanga had to be taken away early on in construction. It was housed at a nursery, and now in the next few weeks we'll be putting that back there. As you will have seen earlier in Fill 9, we have started asphalting this part of the site, and that has gone right from Fill 9 up into this part of the site, which we call Cut 13. It is in a bit of shadow there, but you can start to see the black asphalt is in place right through to the end of Cut 13, so it's a really good site to see. One of the things we've got on our project is a really resilient pavement. So obviously these are just the layers of stone which make up that top surface that you'll be driving on. It's a good 760 millimeters thick, so hopefully really nice and robust for people using it when we've finished off the project. It's just a closer-up view of the asphalting work. Out to the left there you can see a completed spoil site, so that's just one of the sites where we put all the unusable material and it just gets landscaped and planted and drainage put in, just so it looks like part of the surrounding environment. We just before panning away from the shared use path which runs alongside the highway, so that's all now fully connected as well, which is another good milestone, so you could technically walk the whole distance using that. So we have come into the part of the site now that we call Zone 3, and you'll obviously note all of the wind turbines because this is in the middle of Meridian's Te Apiti wind farm, so it's a pretty spectacular view there. can see it's quite a straight piece through here, but it has been quite challenging just because of the water levels and the quality of the soil, but we have made good progress here. Out to the right, you can see the asphalt plant that we've constructed, and that will be one of our two main sources of asphalt for the project. So that should be operational by the end of July, early August. There is another plant out by Bulls that will also be taking asphalt from, but we need about 110,000 tonnes of asphalt to complete the highway, and this plant here in the middle of the site will be a huge part of us being able to achieve that total. One of the things that you'll see out to the right there is the constructed wetland. There's quite a lot of that work along here. One of the things we found going through Zone 3 was there were quite a few streams, so we had to divert those and obviously take all the aquatic life out of them and rehome them. But there's been some really great work done by the construction, design, kaitiaki and ecology teams to make sure that's been done in a really naturalistic way. One of the things to probably mention are travelling times. So we do estimate that it will take about 13 minutes to drive from one side to the other in a light vehicle and about 18 minutes in a truck. So that will be a significant improvement on the travel times that people have been experiencing using the alternative routes, the Saddle Road for example, and as well as being a lot safer and more resilient, which are two of the big reasons for us doing this highway. Out in the distance there you can see the beautiful town of Woodville, and this sort of is the slope downwards. So we sort of talked about the gradient on the western side, but when we get to the eastern side we're looking at around about an 8% gradient, so it's slightly less steep than the western side, but still pretty steep. So as we get into Cut 28, this is actually the last section of the road that doesn't have any of the pavement aggregate on it yet. So what we're trying to do over winter is make sure that we do everything we can to protect the surface there before we can actually start putting those layers down. So that's a big focus of the construction teams at the moment, just protecting the road so we're not pushing ourselves back in terms of the progress that we've already made. We're coming up to, on the left, an area that we used to call the Spiky Knob because it was a little hill covered in thistle bushes. There is some teams working up there, but what that will be is one of the three viewing areas across the highway. So we've got one in the west, one in the centre, and then obviously that one there, and that will give a beautiful view over the surrounding area, including Woodville. You can see some of the drainage channels in place there. Obviously still a bit of earth moving equipment on, although we have pretty much done the bulk earthworks of 6.5 million cubic metres. There will just be bits and pieces across the highway as we go into the end of the project. You'll see there's certainly a lot less of the sediment retention ponds than there were when we were in full earthworks season. We still have a responsibility to capture the water, and we will still do that, but we just don't need as much now that we're not moving as much earth. We're coming up to the Manawatū stream, and across that is what we call the Manawatū Bridge. So that bridge is structurally complete. There are sort of a few little bits and pieces to go on that, but for all intents and purposes that has been completed, which is a great piece of work, and obviously a lot of work's gone in there to make sure we're protecting that stream as well. As we start to get up towards the end of the project, this section of road up here is very close to getting asphalt down on it. It has been stabilised. You can see there some of the planting that's taken place. The landscaping teams are in full swing at the moment. 1.8 million plants in total is what we're looking at. And then we will finish the site, the project, with the Woodville roundabout, or the eastern roundabout. That will also feature a mahi toi feature on it. There will be a number of those across the alignment that we're working very closely with artists and our iwi partners on. So that completes the July 2024 flyover. Thank you so much for your interest. We really appreciate it, and we'll look forward to showing you the next flyover very soon.